When threatened by a predator, some species of lizards can get rid of their tails. At first glance, this might seem like a very unfortunate thing to happen, but for the lizard, it's actually a very smart thing to do. You see, the lizard has an amazing trick up its sleeve. Well, not a sleeve, more like a butt. A trick involving shedding its tail, escaping and then regrowing a new one. That's right. Lizards can grow new tails if they lose them. And no, I don't mean just little lizard babies. Adult lizards can regrow tails too. And if you think that's incredible, wait until you hear how it works. So a lizard growing back its tail is a really rare ability. Technically, it's known as autotomy and regeneration. Autotomy means self-amputation, and regeneration is, well, regeneration. This lizard tail trick is super special, and we're gonna take a deep dive into how it works and why lizards do this. Let's begin with autotomy, the act of dropping your butt when you're scared. Some lizards can voluntarily shed their tails when they sense danger. Like, say, a hungry hawk swoops down from above, ready to eat the lizard for lunch. As the hawk approaches, the lizard's body releases chemicals telling its tail to detach. The tail breaks off at a specific weak point called the autotomy plane. It's not just a breakable bone or a bendable joint, but a special place where the ligaments are loose. When the tail detaches, it flops around on the ground, wiggling and thrashing. It looks alive, and it even has some muscle control. This is a tactic to distract the enemy. For the lizard, it's like saying, "Hey, over here, come and get me." To the hawk, it's like, "Hey, what's this? Some kind of worm? I wonder if I should try eating it." While the hawk is distracted, the lizard escapes. It turns out that not all lizards can drop their tails when they want to. Lizards can't just decide, "You know what, I feel like shedding my tail today." They only drop their tails when they're scared, stressed, or exhausted. Scientists think that the lizards need to be very healthy in order to be able to regrow their tails. So shedding their tail is kind of like a last resort. Now that we know about autotomy, let's move on to regeneration. What happens after a lizard drops its tail? How does a new one grow back? When the tail breaks off, the wound site starts to swell and turn into a mass of regenerative tissue. Scientists call this a blastema. A blastema is a clump of undifferentiated cells. Basically, these are stem cells. They haven't become... Within a few days, the blastomere begins to organize and differentiate, meaning the cells start to develop into different tissues like muscle, blood vessels, nerves, and skin. The new tail grows longer and wider over the next few weeks. Depending on the species of lizard, it takes between a few weeks and a few months for the new tail to fully grow in. A lizard's new tail isn't exactly the same as its old tail. It's shorter, has less vertebrae, and isn't as flexible. Here's why. You see, the detached tail still contains some important structures, like the spinal cord and major blood vessels. When the tail gets eaten by a predator, those structures are digested, so the lizard needs to replace them when it grows a new tail. The new tail is essentially a smaller version of the original tail. It has a core of cartilage rather than bone, so it's not as strong, but it's good enough to help the lizard get around. And the new tail doesn't have the same color pattern as the old tail, which might help camouflage the lizard when it's trying to sneak up on its prey or avoid being seen by a predator. So it turns out that the new tail isn't exactly the same as the old tail. On closer inspection, a keen observer would be able to tell the difference. But unless you're a close friend of the lizard, you probably won't notice any differences. Luckily for the lizard, its new tail works pretty well. It can flick its new tail from side to side to attract a mate or warn off another lizard trying to take its food. So dropping its tail isn't a very big inconvenience for the lizard. And now we know that the process of regenerating a tail is relatively quick and easy for lizards. But why would they ever do such a thing? Well, getting rid of a tail could help a lizard survive when it faces danger. Scientists believe that this ability is one of the most remarkable adaptation strategies of reptiles in the wild. Most animals can't regrow body parts. If a salamander loses its leg, it'll just hobble around on the remaining 3 legs for the rest of its life. Sure, it might be able to find ways to compensate for its missing limb, but it'll never get a new one. Sea cucumbers are a little bit different. When they face danger, they basically explode and release all of their guts onto the ground. Then they wiggle away while the predator is distracted by the pile of goo. Later on, the sea cucumber's guts grow back and everything goes back to normal. But for most animals, losing a leg or an arm or a tail means that they'll have to live the rest of their lives with one less body part. So why should lizards be able to drop their tails when they want to? Wouldn't life be easier if humans could shed limbs when they got tired of carrying them around? We can't. And we don't even know any animal that can regrow an entire arm or leg. So why should lizards get to do this? Well, it turns out that dropping a tail is better than doing nothing at all. Say a lizard can't shake a persistent predator. In that case, the lizard could try dropping its tail. Maybe this will confuse the predator long enough for the lizard to make a run for it. Even if the predator catches the lizard, it'll probably be a lot harder to swallow without the tail. So the lizard has increased its chances of surviving to fight another day. In fact, scientists observed a group of lizards who were being hunted by a hawk. In every single case, the lizards that dropped their tails survived. Of course, there's no guarantee that a lizard will survive even if it drops its tail. Sometimes the predator will grab the tail and eat it along with the lizard. But the tail might also distract the predator long enough for the lizard to escape. Overall, dropping a tail seems to be a good strategy for survival. Now, this raises some questions. Why did lizards evolve to have tails that break off when they're scared? And why can't other animals do this? Well, honestly, scientists aren't quite sure. One idea is that shedding a tail might have started out as a way for baby lizards to escape from predators. Lizards evolved to have tails that break off when they're scared. And why can't other animals do this? Well, honestly, scientists aren't quite sure. One idea is that shedding a tail might have started out as a way for baby lizards to escape from predators. Over millions of years, the ability was passed down to adult lizards. Another idea is that lizards used to be slow and awkward. Their tails couldn't help them move around very quickly, so evolution gave them tails that could break off. This allowed them to get away from predators by wiggling their butts. Whatever the reason, shedding a tail is an incredibly cool adaptation. It's not the only thing that lizards can do, though. Lizards can change color, shoot their tongues, and even fight each other with poisonous blood. In our next episode, we're going to talk about why male lizards bob and weave during fights. And spoiler alert, it's not just to show off their fancy colors. Thanks for watching.